were you ever pressured by the doctors beyond the Tylenol to say, well, maybe this is genetic and they will need some sort of drugs and, behavioral issue type
Well,
thing?
to an extent, we were. I mean, when we consulted doctors, most doctors would say, I mean, it's up to you, but before they're six, like you don't have to have a diagnosis. But
Yeah.
we had two or three different instances where we went to the doctor and they wrote us a referral to the Children's Hospital for an evaluation. And we kind of didn't, because his behavior was irregular, we didn't feel good because it didn't seem like he fit any kind of box other than kind of the rabbit hole we went down is he has a very, very high IQ. He's very, very smart. And gifted children tend to kind of get overstimulated
Hmm.
very easily. And so the only time that he would hit and bite and things like that, it was very overstimulating times like recess, or he could always sit still while the teacher was teaching. He was always very interested in the academics, even very, very early on. Like he's a very eager learner, but he didn't fit the bill for anything. And so we were to an extent pressured. And then also the school he was at, the Mother's Morning Out he was at, they kind of gave us an ultimatum unless you get him evaluated by our psychiatrist and start an RTI, which is a response to intervention plan, which would follow him from 3 all the way through 12th grade. And so we didn't feel comfortable with that either because he's just so young, and we really
Yeah.
felt like there were other things we can do to help him. And luckily, he would have had a misdiagnosis because he
Mhm.
doesn't have any neurologic issues. He's just a normal, very bright, normal little boy.
And that's the thing also, it's the system you guys were placed in that all parents are placed in. Is it's quick to throw a label on someone if they slightly different behavior. And I do think you're right. A lot of children that are sensitive to these things that have high intelligence levels usually are going to, quickly shift if introduced to some different environment or different substance. But it's you can't then quickly, place that label on them and have that follow them for the rest of their life. However, what are you to do? Go against, the system and the doctors?
Yeah.
Did you feel
Yeah.
that at any point you kind of had to say we need to step out of the systems in place and really do, I mean, you did this, I know, but where was that pivotal point where you say we have to do it ourselves because the system is failing us?
Well, that was hard for me, especially kind of bucking up to a teacher, not really bucking up, but just saying we don't feel comfortable with what they were
Yeah.
suggesting. Because I'm a former teacher and I've dealt with, children that their parents kind of made excuses or didn't want to address behaviors. And I didn't want to be that parent. And it was mortifying that I was that parent, first of all.
Mm.
So that was difficult. But I had a friend at the time, and she has a child with autism, and so he needs a lot of extra help. And so I was talking to her about it and kind of this ultimatum they gave us, and where I was wavering, whereas, for one side of me didn't want to be difficult and the other side of me felt like it was wrong. And so I was telling her that just in the parking lot at my son's school. And so she gave me the rundown and she said, realistically, having a diagnosis helps insurance cover. So if you feel like you need extra support, that's something you need to consider. However, God made you his mama for a reason. If you don't feel good about it, don't do it. He made you his mama, and that needs to be your North Star. And that has stuck with me forever. And it was such a powerful, empowering decision that, if I don't feel good about this, if this doesn't feel right, then God made me his mama and there's a reason. And thank God she had that conversation because I immediately went home to Brandon and I was like, yeah, like it's a no for us.
Yeah, I feel like parents really need to dive deep into their own hearts, right? And their own belief systems and not follow what everyone else around them is telling them because you're correct. That's your child, no one else's. You have that responsibility and you can't just pass that along to an expert. We talked about this before. I don't think we need more experts out there. Need more observers and people that trust their instincts to where they are placed in this world.